Hi, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Cage. I'm your host, Jim Graham. Dave Sadler, he's my co-host. And joining us on the line, we have a very special guest. He is currently in Bellator's Featherweight tournament. He is Rad Martinez. Rad, thanks for joining us here on Beyond the Cage.
Hey, thanks for having me on. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, and you fought last Friday, and now that you've had a couple days since that victory, can you talk a little bit about your performance in that fight?
Yeah, I went back. I watched the tape. I looked at it. It was a pretty good fight, a barn burner of a fight. Nazareno, man, he sure brought it. I wasn't expecting him to be as aggressive and as good on his feet, but we both laid it out on the line. I'm glad I was able to get the victory, and I saw some areas that I need to improve on, but I'm pretty happy with my performance.
Like you said, that fight mostly played out on the feet. Was that the game plan going in, or did you want to wrestle a little more than you did?
No, that was definitely my game plan. I didn't know that it was his game plan as well, but that was my game plan. I knew he was. I know he's very good with his jiu-jitsu game. He had 12 victories by submission. So it was my intention to keep it standing and try to beat him up on his feet. Little did I know that I was going to beat up as well.
Now, like you said, you took a few hits against Malagari. Has that had any effect on your training so far?
Not so much. I mean, I took some lumps, got some bruises, but I took a couple days to take it easy this week, take it easy and heal my body, heal my face. But starting next week, I'll be right back in there doing the same thing I did to prepare for this one. So a couple days to take it easy, and then next week it's go hard again.
Your fight was the only fight of the quarterfinal round in the featherweight tournament that with the distance. Do you think that puts you at a disadvantage at all moving forward in this tournament?
I mean, a little bit yes, a little bit no. You know, those guys they didn't receive the lumps and bruises that I did, so probably they were able to get back into training. But at the same time, you know, I know that I can do it. I've now my body and my mind's prepared to do it. So if I get into the next round, there's not going to be any shock to my body. If it's another hard-fought war and we go all 3 rounds again, these guys, you know, those quick knockouts, maybe they're not so prepared and ready for a war if it comes to that. So a little advantage for me, but a little disadvantage as well.
Now, with these Bellator tournaments, the way they're set up, you only got about a month between fights. Is that a new experience for you?
Yes, a very new experience. I've not had a fight where it's been less than 3 months, and sometimes it's 4 months between fights. So yes, it is a new experience. But I'm finding that I'm kind of liking it this way, because when you have the long layoff between fights, and then you figure out who your opponent is. You have all those months to stew and brew and think and almost drive yourself crazy about your opponent. With this way, you basically get back into training. You don't even have time to think about who you're fighting. All you can think about is getting there, working hard, and getting to the next fight. So, you know, 3 weeks in between is I'm finding that I kind of like it that way.
Now, could you talk a little bit about your weight cut and what things you do to make that featherweight limit of 145?
Yeah, well, you know, I fought most of my career at 155, and that weight cut was pretty easy. I only walk around about 160, 165, so I'm not cutting a whole lot of weight. So when it gets close to time, you know, a couple weeks out is when I start to diet and watch what I eat. You know, I cut my meals in half and start to bring it down slowly. And then, you know, the last couple of days, I only have, you know, 7-8 pounds to lose. So it's not too hard of a weight cut. So, and then, you know, I wrestled all throughout college, so I'm used to cutting a lot more weight than I am now. So it's been relatively easy up to this point.
So would you say 145 is the perfect weight class for you, or would there be any consideration in the future of fighting at bantamweight?
Yeah, no, there no consideration fighting at bantamweight. The lowest I want to go is 145. I feel, yeah, it's perfect. That 145, 155, I still feel strong. I still feel big. I still feel fast, and I still feel good. When I was in college, I wrestled at 133, and cutting that weight just makes the season drag and makes you hate the sport. And so 145, I won't go any lower than that, and I think it's a good fit for me.
Now, of course, you train in some altitude in Utah. Do you think that gives you an edge at all, conditioning-wise, against your opponents?
I don't know. Maybe a little bit. The air there is thin up here, and I'm used to training in it. But when I get to the lower elevations, I don't notice a whole lot of difference. I don't find myself breathing easier or harder. I think as a fighter, you train as hard as you can, and you get into shape, and everybody's around the same. So I don't really necessarily think that gives me too much of an advantage.
Now, of course, with your victory against Malagari, you move on to the semi-finals in the Featherweight tournament in Bellator, and you got matched up with Wagnney Fabiano. Is that the guy you wanted to fight next?
It really didn't matter who they matched us up with. We were going to be prepared. I hadn't known very much about anybody in the tournament. When I found out I was fighting Nazareno, I just watched him and learned what I needed to do against him. So now we got Wagnney Fabiano, and it seemed, and watching tape on him, it seems like our styles, well, my style matches up with his style. He's a jiu-jitsu guy, and I'm a wrestler, and I'm going to try to keep it standing and keep him from taking me down. So it's not necessarily who I wanted or didn't want. It's just who they gave me next, and now we're preparing for him.
So does that mean we're going to see maybe a similar fight that you had against Malagari against Fabiano, a stand-up war?
Yeah, I hope it's not that much of a war, but that's what I'm planning to do. It's watching his last fight in the tournament. It was very obvious that he wanted to take his opponent down and submit him. So I would think that will be his game plan going into this one. So my game plan will be to keep it standing and not put it in his wheelhouse where he likes to have it, dealing with his jiu-jitsu. So, I expect it to be very similar to what we had last time.
Now, it's been a little over a year since the story about you and your father has been shown on ESPN. What has changed the most for you since that aired?
Well, not a whole lot with my daily life has changed, but since then I got signed with Bellator. I picked up a great, big sponsor in Gaspari Nutrition. I found, my girlfriend that I have now, who I love very much. She saw the story, and we started talking because of that. And so my daily routine with my father hasn't really changed that much, but these with Bellator and Gaspari Nutrition and my girl, those are the big major things that have changed. So, I mean, all good things.
Well, that's good to hear. And I want to get you out here with this. If you're able to win this tournament, Bellator, and become their next featherweight tournament champion, what will it mean to you?
It'll mean so much. It'll mean, athletes sometimes we can be fragile people and have fragile egos, and sometimes we don't know if we're good enough. And a lot of people have said some comments about, Bellator just gave me the chance because it's a heartbreaking story, and I'm a good guy, so they want to give me that opportunity. So I'm here to prove that I belong, and if I go out there and I put on good fights like I did last time, and then find my hand raised to win the tournament, I think that goes a long way to say that that I'm a good fighter, and I belong to be here with the top ranks. So it's going to go a long ways to make me feel good and prove to myself that I belong here.
He's on Twitter at RadMFTW. Rad, thanks for coming on Beyond the Cage, and hopefully we can have you on after another victory inside Bellator.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for having me on, and anytime I can do this, I'm glad to come on. Thank you for having me.
No problem, and good luck in your fight against Fabiano.
Thank you.
All right, that was Rad Martinez, Bellator featherweight fighter, right here on Beyond the Cage.